Hello, everyone. So today I'm reviewing a very highly anticipated game recently between Nishiyama Tomoka, who is a female professional player with three female titles right now, and Abe Kouru is a seven-dan professional. And so the reason why this match was so highly anticipated is that Nishiyama was one win away from qualifying to take the professional entrance exam. I'm not going to get full into how people become professional shogi players in this video. If you want to see a video on that, let me know in the comments. But basically, female players, amateur players are invited to play in some professional tournaments and leagues. And if you are able to win at least 10 games and achieve a win rate of 65%, then you qualify for the exam. And the exam is basically a best of five against the five most recently anointed professional four-down players. And so Nishiyama was, I believe, 12 wins, 7 losses. And so literally one win away from getting that 65% win rate. And this was the game. So highly anticipated to see, because there's never been a female who's actually been able to become a full professional player before. Actually, Nishiyama was very close. She got third place in the Sandan League, which is how people normally become professional players. And only the top two actually make it to four down and become professional. So she's probably the person who's come closest to actually becoming a professional as a female player. So yeah, again, highly anticipated. Let's see how she does and if she can actually qualify for the exam. So she drew Gote, and Nishiyama is a full-fledged ranging player, plays it every game, and her opponent is kind of like an all-arounder, plays a whole bunch of different stuff. And in this game, he actually went for a strategy that I play actually fairly often against, especially third file rook, but generally against ranging rook. So the beginning here is actually pretty standard until he goes ahead and kind of pushes this pawn to force 6. It's a little early. But the idea behind the opening here is actually that he wants to have a quick attack. Now, Nishiyama doesn't quite play along. She goes and gets her rook back from third file to fourth file rook. And the reason for that is he actually ends up jumping this knight in the actual game. But I wanted to show really quickly what can happen if, for example, Nishiyama would have moved her king up instead of keeping the rook on the third file. Now, this is a perfectly acceptable way to play. However, you're gonna face a really big attack, and the whole idea around this kind of configuration, where you jump the knight early and keep the silver on 4-8, is that you have a really good combination of pieces between your bishop, your knight, and this rook eyeing the second file. And so it's actually really, really hard to defend this and prevent Sente from kind of breaking through on the second file. Essentially, you're looking to trade bishops and break through on the second file. Now, if your opponent keeps kind of their silver low, they can retake with the silver. And we'll see this in the game, what actually happened. But because the rook is on the third file instead of the fourth file, you have this move to just jump the knight, hit the silver, and attack. And this becomes favorable for Sente because you have the promoted knight that can combo with any rook drops that you have. Yeah, there's some counterplay, but this is just good overall for Sente. And so this is kind of why Nishiyama decided to move her rook back. You saw in that variation that the knight going to 4-5, and generally speaking, you're attacking on the fourth file, so it's very logical to kind of bring your rook over to help defend against that attack. So he jumps the knight anyway. This is kind of his plan from the beginning. And Nishiyama goes ahead and brings the silver up to 3-2. So again, this idea is, okay, the whole idea of this opening is we're going to push this pawn, bust things open, trade the bishops, and then push the rook pawn. But when the silver is on 3-2 and the rook is on 4-2, the rook defends the fourth file and the silver defends the bishop. So it actually doesn't work so easily against fourth file rook. Now there are some configurations in fourth file where you can still play that attack, but you kind of have to make a few waiting moves, and the fourth file rook player has to bring their silver up to 4-3 for it to kind of work. Because in that case, the silver is no longer defending the bishop. But obviously Nishiyama knows all of this, and so she doesn't bring the silver up because she does not want to allow that attack. And so Abe decides, okay, I'm going to make a couple waiting moves, but he decides to go ahead and bring this silver out into the middle of the board. And it's kind of like another way to play this opening. Again, like aiming to try and break through on the fourth file. But again, you really do need this move in order to really initiate the attack and have it work. Again, obviously Nishiyama knows this, so she keeps the silver back. And so Abe decides, all right, we're going to close the bishop diagonal. We're kind of going to give up on this attack and kind of go for something else. Now, when I was watching this, and from what I know about this opening, my assumption was that he was going to castle into Anaguma, right? So like basically the meta in, professional games of static rook versus, fourth file, third file rook is to just go for Anaguma. And I mean, when you put it into the engine, once you've got the Anaguma ready to go, you're like 60-40 or something, and the pro players are very happy to play that. But Abe actually ended up having a different idea. So you can see here Nishiyama's like, aha, like you closed your bishop diagonal, I can go ahead and move my silver forward. But Abe's idea was actually to attack on the sixth file. Now, because the silver's moved up, he's again threatening this pawn push, and now he's threatening the sixth file. Now, the engine didn't quite like this attack, mostly because of this counterplay. If you're ever stuck in the middle game, you're not really sure what to do, look for opponent's weaknesses, and one of the key weaknesses in this opening is the knight's head. So she goes and attacks it right away. He needs to defend it with the rook. And she finds this really nice pawn push to open up the bishop diagonal. Now that your kind of pieces are a little bit kind of separated. This is weak. This is weak. There's a lot of kind of weak pieces and hanging pieces. Let's go ahead and trade bishops. It's definitely in her favor to trade bishops now. And now, these pawns are really attacking. You still can't allow the bishop trade. And you have some nice bishop drops kind of countering, like this configuration, it looks kind of good because there's a bunch of pieces stuck together, but actually this is hanging, and the rook is, the silver is the only thing defended by the rook. So here he drops the bishop to kind of counter, and Abe decides, okay, like now I can break through the second file. Nishiyama recaptures, he recaptures, and she goes ahead and trades bishops. So here it kind of looks pretty good for Sente, like first glance, threatening this to promote, whereas Nishiyama's rook is kind of stuck. Pawn drop on 6-4 is coming. So Nishiyama here is actually under a little bit of pressure to get something done, but it turns out she actually has a very nice move, which is this pawn push to 4-6. It seems, okay, yeah, sure, you can promote this pawn, but what happens if you just defend? And we still have this rook promotion coming, right? But actually the threat here, if for example, maybe we defend and maybe you're doing something like this because you want to attack. And you might think that you can promote this rook now. But actually Nishiyama has a plan for that, which is this bishop drop. And so this is actually what she was setting up with this pawn push. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1 move where A, you're threatening this pawn push, but B, you're also preventing the rook from going here with that nice bishop drop that we saw. So here, Abe goes ahead, goes for his other idea. Instead of promoting the rook, he's going to go ahead and attack on the 6th file. Nishiyama defends, and here Abe kind of makes his first error in a way. It's a very logical move. Obviously, they both see this potential bishop drop, and so his idea was, okay, let me move the king out of the way so that now I can promote my rook, but it's a little slow, right? And Nishiyama takes full advantage with actually also technically slightly an error. But wow, okay, this is a weird move, right? Because it could just be taken, rook gets to promote. And actually, it was the best move to go ahead and take this pawn. But if you take it, there's a line that looks a little bit scary, which is this pawn promotion shack. You need to take it with the gold. And then when the silver comes back, it hits the dragon, and you open up a way for, and you open up the attack on the gold at the same time. But it turns out that you have a really nice counter to this, which is to drop a pawn on 4-3. Right, so if the rook takes, our dragon's going to be able to get in and take the silver, and you get a trade. And you have quite a big attack here. Here, right? And in this case, instead, if you try and take, with the silver, if you take the dragon with the silver, we're going to go ahead and be able to take the rook and make a token. Even if you do this, we have some nice drops to defend. So I think that's the line that Abe saw, and also Nishiyama saw, that they both evaluate as probably good for Gote, but the engine actually likes it and thinks it's better than what he ended up doing, which was to retreat his rook. And mainly because when you retreat the rook, this pawn promotion stack is still coming, and it's just really, really strong. You can't ignore it and just give them the token, but when you end up taking, your gold comes away from your king and the castle, and it goes directly into the line of the rook. So I think they kind of just maybe overestimated this position for Sente, and maybe underestimated a little bit the other position, and so they both kind of were in a slight delusion together in this game. But so this position actually ended up being very good for Nishiyama already, something around 65-35. So again, same idea, this time bringing the silver up, hitting the silver, and also threatening that gold. Again, Nishiyama goes on the attack, bringing the silver. Obviously, it's sack, but you get to go ahead and promote your rook while taking the gold. So he can't allow that. He goes ahead and drops a pawn, but actually, this also was a slight mistake, because instead, this counter pawn drop, again, threatening to take any piece on here, 4-7, and get these defensive pieces away from the king has just been kind of the killer for Abe so far in this game. And so Nishiyama's really got the initiative here, and she's in a very good position. So they trade the silvers, and Nishiyama here drops a pawn on 6-6. So this is kind of like a playing it safe, taking it slow, okay, let's make the token. But the engine here actually really liked bishop drop on 6-6 with the idea, okay, we're threatening here, and it looks a little bit strange because, okay, the gold can come over, but again, this pawn promotion sack is kind of there in every one of these positions, and it's kind of the ace up Nishiyama's sleeve this entire game that's giving her the advantage. So you can kind of see in this variation, this is actually obviously very good for Nishiyama. But she went with the pawn, and I think the evaluation here is back to about even. It's just, again, a little bit slow compared to that bishop drop. So Abe drops his silver to defend, and again, the slowness lets Abe kind of build up his castle again. So here was another situation where Abe went slightly wrong. Um, Instead, the engine wanted him to recapture this knight, um, and then drop the bishop this way. I think it's just you want to trade pieces, um, and he actually has a pretty good attack here with this pawn sack because this structure is not very good for defending your king. But instead, he goes for the bishop drop right away. And I think what he underestimated is that actually in this position, Nishiyama doesn't actually have to run the rook away. And in fact, taking the knight, and then if Abe were to go and take the rook, then taking the gold, this is actually good for Nishiyama. He doesn't have enough of an attack. The Nishiyama king is super safe, and his king, yeah, he's got some pieces here, but this token is threatening. This is threatening. He has another one here, and Nishiyama just has all kinds of pieces in hand to attack Abe with. And so probably he kind of missed this idea, and that's actually what Nishiyama goes for. And Nishiyama runs the rook away while still maintaining pressure on 4-7. Abe goes ahead and tries to defend with a knight drop. And this was a spot where, there's several options for Nishiyama, and she chose slightly wrong. She decided to go ahead and counterattack and drop this bishop, but engine really like dropping the rook back. Yeah, you kind of lose this pawn, but again, you really maintain the pressure with this pawn promotion 4-7. Even if you try and counter drop, there's this counter pawn drop. And what this essentially does is you can't ignore it because then your king is too weak. But when you recapture it, now when pawn takes on 5-7, it's also threatening to take the gold. So it speeds up her counterattack, and it becomes kind of unignorable on Abe's side. He just doesn't have time to take the rook. But instead she goes for this bishop drop, and it's actually a really nice move, and it looks great, and like the sequence of moves that I think she read through and wanted is like really, really nice. It's just the engine, the engine evaluates not how nice and pretty the moves are. It kind of just evaluates, okay, like what is the likelihood that you're gonna win? And so obviously what this bishop does, it's a double attack, a fork on the king and the knight, and also kind of an x-ray on the rook. But there's a series of moves here that are really nice. So if you take the rook, he can take, Nishiyama can take the gold and take the sente or with attack the rook with tempo. So Abe needs to move the rook. And then in this position, also, she has a pawn promotion sack, which obviously has to be answered. But now the gold is hanging. So when the horse takes on 3-6, it's another fork. Obviously, you need to run your gold. But then when you take the knight, boom, again, it hits the dragon. So it's this really nice, like 3 or 4 move sequence where you're just like forking all kinds of pieces and, winning tempo on your opponent. The problem with the moves is the tempo that you were gaining is forcing your opponent into actually good moves. So A, he got the rook all the way in and promoted to 2-1. B, his castle is kind of rebuilt now, and those were the kind of forcing moves, or those are the moves that you were forcing, which were actually positive moves for your opponent. So you kind of like got some material, won some tempo, but at the same time, Abe was able to kind of like get a counter attack or some counterplay with the dragon, and then also build up his castle again. So I think this is kind of why the engine didn't quite like this line. And so in this position, we're essentially back to an even game. And so Nishiyama's had a couple opportunities to get, I think she was at about between 60 and 70%, according to some of the engines. But now we're back to an even game. There are a couple spots that are really difficult, and the time control here is actually pretty short for professional games. I think it was 40 minutes each plus 1 minute Byoyomi. So here, Nishiyama goes ahead and sacrifices a pawn so that she can drop this knight. And then again, drops the knight. And Abe goes slightly wrong here. Now, it seems like such a great move, actually, right? Like, you're attacking, you're threatening to take the horse. But actually, Engine really liked coming back and taking the pawn with the horse. And this is kind of like the Engine line that it suggests. This is a very hard move to see. But basically, the idea is this knight actually isn't that much of a threat here and here. I mean, your gold is defending, your silver is defending, knight's going to get taken potentially eventually. And so you can actually just go for the counterattack. But it's really counterintuitive to go for such a position and essentially sacrificing your horse for a pawn in order to get that position. That's really hard to see. So instead, Abe decides to drop this rook here. And it was interesting in the post-game analysis, he did identify that he thought he was better, or at least it was an even game all of a sudden. But after he dropped this rook, things didn't quite go his way, but he wasn't actually sure what he was supposed to do. So obviously he didn't see this this like retreating horse sack, which I don't blame him for not seeing that. But here again, Nishiyama had multiples of these moves already in this game where Abe's threatening one of her major pieces, and she's just like, you can have it. I'm gonna counter. So obviously here you can't really you don't really have time to take this horse. This is just now you have no castle, and also your rook is now away from the attack. And so this is already very, very good for Gote. So here he has to respond. Now again, his castle's kind of in pieces, and Nishiyama finds this really nice move, horseback to 5-4. So threatening to get rid of this pawn, also threatening the dragon. And so this is kind of killing all of Abe's counterplay that he had been building up in the last few moves. So Abe decides, okay, I'm going to retreat. Go ahead and try and defend myself and look for a chance later on. Nishiyama goes ahead and drops this knight. This is like kind of like an obvious knight that you want to be dropping. Again, in these types of positions when you're looking for attacking moves, look for their weak spots. And again, knight's head is always weak. And I guess this is another aim of this this retreating horse. It was attack here, take this pawn, and then attack the knight's head with this knight drop. So Abe sees that and he's like, okay, we need to get rid of this horse. It's just way too strong. But again, Nishiyama finds this in between move, where she kind of just ignores the threat on her major piece, and this completely kills Abe's attack. I mean, how are you going to get through this? And obviously, even if he takes the horse, you can just take back with the pawn and maybe even take the rook first. So again, Abe kind of goes into full defense mode. Like, all right, I'm not getting through that. I just need to do whatever I can to prevent you from attacking me, and hopefully I'll find my chance to counterattack. But Nishiyama does a great job and does not really allow any counterattacks, and she finds this very fast attack with this bishop drop. So obviously it's threatening to take the gold, but it x-rays this key 7-6 square that the knight is attacking. And from here, again, he kind of does whatever he can to try and defend by bringing this dragon back. But even then, it just doesn't work. And again, Nishiyama finds a very similar retreating move with the horse. Again, attacking the knight's head, attacking a dragon, threatening to remove like the one attacking piece that Abe has left in the position. And also, he really needs to keep the scope of this dragon on kind of the 7th rank. Um, Mainly just because of, these types of drops coming through. But even then, Nishiyama goes ahead, drops this silver, um, basically threatening this pawn drop to get rid of the defender of the knight's head. Abe tries to counter. Nishiyama drops the pawn, and Abe resigns. So Nishiyama wins the game, and she qualifies to take the professional exam, which is just super exciting. Because again, we've never seen a female player become a full-time, or not full-time, is not the right word, but like a full-fledged four-dan professional player. So hopefully she'll do a good job and at least have a nice showing in those professional matches, and we could be potentially seeing some shogi history if Nishiyama can manage to win 3 of those 5 games. And I think, in a couple of the players that would be slated to play against her, she's beaten in the past in 3-dan league. Also, she's lost to them. So like she actually already has multiple matches against them from the Sandan leagues in the past with multiples of the players. And I think one of them maybe has like a 2-0 record against her. She kind of has like an even record against others. But still, super, super exciting. And hopefully I'll be able to review those matches when they happen as well. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you liked the video. Like the video if you liked the video, and subscribe if you want to see more. All right, thanks.